So to be clear, Mr. Singh, would you be prepared to work with a new Liberal leader?
Well, what do we have here today? Welcome back to Moose and Loose. We've got two major stories here. We've got rumors of Jagmeet Singh making a dirty deal to keep the Liberals in power for a bailout package for Canadians that get affected by Donald Trump's tariffs. The other one is Commissioner Hogue has dropped the foreign interference report, which is huge. The summary is 120 pages long. She says there are no traitors in the government, which directly contradicts Jagmeet Singh and Justin Trudeau, essentially proving that they are lying. They were lying to Canadians. Let's jump into this. First off, we've got the Hogue report here. Foreign interference has concluded, and there was no evidence of traitors operating in Canada's parliament. We got a video of here talking about this.
Most Canadians first learned about foreign interference through media reports, without the government being the source of the information communicated. This should not have been the case. The government needs to better inform the public, and it needs to be more transparent.
Let's jump over to the Cpac report where they break it down a bit.
But, I mentioned the allegation from that Cpac report back in June, talking about witting participants among parliamentarians. The Parliamentary Watchdog Group essentially asking Justice Hogue to look into that allegation. What did she have to say there? Not an original part of her terms of reference, but added on, but obviously of great concern. What do we hear from Justice Hogue regarding that matter?
Right, Michael, right near the very start of this executive summary, which alone is 120 pages. That shows you the breadth of this report. But she does talk about this Cpac report, and she does say that although the phenomenon, it does remain marginal and largely ineffective, that there's no cause for widespread alarms. She says she has not seen any evidence of traitors in Parliament plotting with foreign states to act against Canada. She goes on to...
This is very interesting because we had Sam Cooper come out and name the four that were involved wittingly, unwittingly. We had Mary Ng in Trudeau's cabinet, two independent senators, which are actually Liberals, the one Conservative senator who's no longer in Parliament. There's also Han Dong, but it seems like Commissioner Hogue is saying that there's no traitors in the government that were betraying Canada. But this goes very much against what Justin Trudeau and Jagmeet Singh, they're both in press conferences or under oath saying to Canadians.
To say that although there are a few cases involving things like attempts to curry favor, again, she says that it remains marginal. She's not aware of any federal legislation or policies that have been enacted or repealed on account of foreign interference. She says that while some of these states' attempts are troubling, that there is some concerning conduct by parliamentarians, there is no cause for widespread alarm. And she says that it should not be overblown. She goes into some more detail later on about...
So no widespread alarm shouldn't be overblown.
The Cpac report, and she tells us that that report has no names of individual politicians and that her mandate as part of this commission does not involve passing judgment on the culpability of an elected official, even if there were individual names involved.
Now, if we take a look at what Justin Trudeau said, first off, we see here on CBC, no evidence of traitors in Parliament conspiring with foreign states, public inquiry. Well, here's Justin Trudeau last year under oath talking on this very subject.
I have the names of a number of parliamentarians, former parliamentarians and or candidates in the Conservative Party of Canada who are engaged or at high risk of, or for whom there is clear intelligence around foreign interference. And I have directed CSIS and others to try and inform the Conservative Party leader to be warned and armed to be able to make decisions that protect the integrity of that party. And the decision by the leader of the Conservative Party to not get those classified briefings means that nobody in his party, not him, nobody in a position of power, knows the names of these individuals and can take appropriate action.
This is unbelievable here. So According to Commissioner Hogue, then, Justin Trudeau is lying. He lied to Canadians. Which one is it? This is such a cluster in our government. It is unbelievable. What a liar and a fraud. What an embarrassment. It's never ending with this guy. It really is. Just nonstop. Liar, liar, pants on fire. It's a cover-up. That's why they sealed the truth for 99 years. There's a whole bunch of ideas going around here. It could be completely infiltrated with traitors, but they're all liberals and they're trying to hide it. There could be no one, as Commissioner Hogue says, and Trudeau's lying in this case. Either way, somebody's lying in the government. Is he lying under oath? Apparently Trudeau always lies. And here's Jagmeet Singh in a press conference just after this whole situation broke out.
The Cpac report, we think it is very, very serious and deeply troubling that the Cpac report indicates there are MPs that knowingly worked with foreign governments to undermine Canada.
This guy read the document. He has security clearance, and this is what he said. Commissioner Hogue says there's no traitors in the government. Like, what the heck is going on?
We also believe it's deeply concerning that the allegations the Cpac raises also touch the Conservative leadership race.
There it is. They're both attacking the Conservatives. This is starting to stink real bad here, guys.
The idea that a foreign government was involved in the selection of the leader of the Conservative Party is deeply concerning, so much so that we are writing a letter demanding that the public inquiry into foreign interference in elections include the Conservative leadership race.
This is egregious. Misuse of power here. With that, we've got Jagmeet Singh question today on this topic.
You called for MPs to be kicked out of Parliament if they were working with foreign governments. Commissioner Hogue says there is no evidence of traitors. Did you add to a sense of public trust, you think, by calling for MPs to be kicked out of Parliament when Hogue has found that there are no traitors?
Well, first of all, I relied on the information that I had before me, which was the Cpac report and the unredacted version. We had called for a public inquiry for this very reason. We wanted the justice of the public inquiry to delve into these matters, to get the full details, to get more information. And that's what Justice Hogue did. She was able to get the supporting documentation, even speak with the intelligence officers.
So what did you read in those documents that she didn't? This is ridiculous.
And was able to provide her opinion. And I thank her for her work. That was very important work. But she did highlight that there were members of sitting members of Parliament right now who have questionable ethics in relation to foreign interference. She has raised some serious concerns.
Questionable ethics? That's you, Jagmeet Singh. You held our country hostage for your pension. Disgraceful.
And I think it is a responsibility of every political party to ensure that their members of Parliament are not caught up in foreign interference, are not engaged in questionable ethics in their behavior, and that there's checks and balances in place. And I thank Justice Hogue for her work in uncovering that and highlighting that is something that she found very concerning as well.
Okay, my follow-up on
Peter Julian's body language here is hilarious. He keeps kind of looking down. He's holding his hands. He's like, Jagmeet, don't screw this up again. Don't say something stupid again. It's quite clear they're going to vote him out the next opportunity they get.
Just going to double barrel this. One more foreign interference question and another question about tariff relief. Do you believe the recommendations from the Hogue Commission can be implemented before the next election? So pretty simple question. And you are calling for a meeting. So this is the question about tariff relief. You are calling for a meeting of all the parties. Should one of the discussions be all of the parties working together to extend Parliament a bit longer to give more relief, to give tariff relief to people if Trump imposes his tariffs?
Here it is. So as I was mentioning in previous videos, is it possible that it was a strategy to piss off Trump, create this battle between him and Canadians, to create this division, to try to gather support, and in this case, to extend Parliament? Seems like there's some talking going on in the background here.
Okay, well, I'll take the two questions. One is, the first question is directly, it's up to the Liberals. They could have not prorogued Parliament and we would have been able to make things happen in Parliament. They could recall Parliament. So it's really up to them if they want to take any steps to implement the recommendations of Justice Hogue. So that is up to them. And we've always said our commitment is to put Canada first and to defend our democracies, to protect our country from foreign interference. So that's going to be a question in the ball of the Liberals. Are they going to do anything with this or not? On the second point, when we were in the pandemic and we were up against some serious worries about people losing their jobs, we had regular meetings where opposition leaders came together and were given information about what the next steps were. And we had to find ways to work together. We pushed for significant relief for Canadians. During that period, New Democrats were the ones that really fought for things, but really everyone came together. Similarly, if there's a plan, all the opposition leaders need to come together. There needs to be the government providing information about what the next steps are. That has not happened yet. The Liberals have not reached out. They have not brought together opposition leaders. We want to provide real supports for working people that are impacted by these tariffs who are really worried. I want to see that same initiative taken. Bring people together and let's have a plan in place.
So he says there's no plan in place. We've got multiple reports coming out. Pandemic Spending 2.0, this one posted by Mark Nixon. Ottawa planning pandemic level relief for workers, businesses if Trump imposes tariffs. This is all over the place. You can see here developing right now. White House says February 1st tariff threat still holds. Sources says relief plans could reach pandemic levels. There's a lot of rumors going around that Jagmeet Singh is going to sign a deal with Carney or whoever, maybe even Justin Trudeau, and extend Parliament and keep this corrupt government in power.
If Trump follows through on his plan with tariffs, would you keep the Liberals in power and allow for the passage of a work relief program before supporting a non-confidence motion?
I'll just start off by the fact that I've spoken with a lot of workers who are deeply worried about what the Trump
There was no hard no there. If he was going to say no, he would just say no. Just saying.
tariffs might mean. They say, sometimes I lay awake at night saying, if that tariff goes through, do I lose my job? And what's going to happen to my kids? What's going to happen to my family? When we think about the analysis that's out there, if those Trump tariffs come in place, there are hundreds and thousands of Canadian jobs at risk. Think about what that means for those workers.
This guy is buttering up the situation to keep Trudeau in power. Let's just call this what this is.
Hundreds of thousands of workers, for their families, for those communities. This could be devastating for our country. So we do need to have a plan in place to support those that are impacted, those businesses, those workers, most importantly. I have not had any conversations with other opposition leaders. I think we need to come together to have a discussion about what is the best way forward. I've not had any discussions with the government related to this. If there is any desire to move forward, the government should call us together, like we did during COVID, and discuss a plan that supports workers. We, as a party of working people, a party founded by workers, want to make sure that there's a plan in place for workers. It's why we...
Workers, you drive a Maserati, you got a Rolex on, you wear fancy multi-$1,000 suits. You're not a worker, you're not a man of the people, you're nothing related to everyday Canadians. Just like Mark Carney, Mr. Multi-millionaire investment banker guy, cannot relate to Canadians. Same with Silver Spoon Justin Trudeau.
We said from the beginning, EI is clearly not up to the task. During the pandemic, we realized EI does not cover the majority of Canadian workers. We called for changes to happen to EI so that we would be better prepared if something happens again that disrupts our economy. The Liberals did not listen. And so we are now in this position where we have an insufficient EI, the threat of tariffs, and many workers lying awake at night saying, am I going to lose my job or not? So I hope that there's a plan moving forward.
Jumping ahead here, they don't let Jagmeet off the hook so easily. They ask him this question over and over.
So to be clear, Mr. Singh, would you be prepared to work with a new Liberal leader on some of the recommendations in the Hogue report that would involve tabling a new bill and bringing legislation forward? Could you see that happening before moving a motion of non-confidence?
Well, again, this is about the Liberals. Like, they can make that happen right now. They can make that happen before we get to a point where we need to table confidence votes. Confidence votes are scheduled.
He's not answering the question. He's deflecting it back on the Liberals. This is not a no, Jagmeet.
Soon. And I've said I'm going to be voting against the government. But the government's serious about this. They could bring in legislation earlier. They could take steps right now. They could put forward a plan to address the recommendations of Justice Hogue right now. I have not seen that plan. I have not seen that initiative. The ball is really in their court.
So he said he's going to be voting against the government, but he hasn't seen a plan. He's buttering up this situation to then go back on his word and say, well, it's for workers, though, so we need to keep the government in power because we need to pass this bill to save all of you. That's what this looks like to me. I give it 50-50 that this buffoon supports Trudeau, Carney, one of these crooks, back into power and drags out this madness all the way until October.
If the Liberals are serious about this, they should do it. And so far, I've not seen any initiative that indicates to me that they're serious about adopting anything that Justice Hogue has recommended, while I think it is very important that we do so.
And again, to be clear, would you be prepared to do it with a new Liberal leader, since there will be a new one, March 9th, and moving forward with that leader on legislation to protect against foreign interference before the next election?
So just before he answers this again, take a look at his hands here. So Jagmeet Singh doesn't have a lot of tells. He's able to hold his body language really well in his face, actually, and in the rest of his body. His energy comes out in his hands. He doesn't like this question. He's nervous about it. So I'm going to play that again. Just watch his hands down here and look at him fiddling. He's just got to get that energy out because he's not feeling comfortable.
to protect against foreign interference before the next election?
Really, the question still comes back to whether the Liberals have any initiative to do this. Like, if they want to do this, the recommendations are out today. There's nothing stopping them from saying, okay, we need to bring back Parliament and do something. So really, the question goes back to the Liberals. What do you want to do? Do you want to implement these changes? Are you going to implement these changes? The question really comes back to the Liberals. We do not know where they stand. We do not know if they're interested in moving forward or not. They need to answer those questions.
So he's putting it back on the Liberals, but he's also leaving the door cracked there to save the Liberals, to save Canadians. He wants to try to get votes that way. So when the Liberals completely crap the bed here again, he'll come in and like, okay, I'll support you guys only for the workers, only for Canadians. I'll save you guys with this stimulus package, this pandemic 2.0 stimulus package that they want to push out to save Canadians. I'll be the savior. That's how he's positioning himself here. He sees in the polls, I showed it in the previous video, Mark Carney, if he takes over the Liberals, he's taking 6 or 7% of the NDP's vote with him, dropping the NDP support down to 13% versus sitting around 19%. He's backed into a corner and now he's trying to figure out what to do, but it looks like Peter Julian's here to monitor the situation, make sure he doesn't say anything stupid. That's what it looks like, because the rest of the NDP don't support this guy anymore. Meanwhile, we've got Chrystia Freeland. This is hilarious. So she posted on Holocaust Remembrance Day, we honored the 6 million Jews that were taken out, that were ended, and all the victims of N-word atrocities. Yeah, I can't read any of these words on this platform, but you get it. But then she gets fact checked by Community Notes. Chrystia Freeland has attempted to deny her grandfather's history as a N-word collaborator. Disgraceful and embarrassing. And speaking of disgraceful and embarrassing, we have Elizabeth May. This nutcase is out of control.
Help address that issue, especially when it's an, as she said, existential threat to democracy.
Watching Elon Musk parade around the world as the new emperor of all, along with his buddy Donald Trump, I am deeply concerned for the next election in Canada. I think Musk interfering in Germany's elections on the side of the far right parties that want to play footsie with Nazis and say we don't have to feel guilty about our past on International Day of Holocaust Remembrance. This is pretty offensive stuff. Our solution in the Green Party is we as Canadians and our government should say there's no such thing as a platform. You're a publisher, and Meta and Twitter and X and all of them would have to abide by the jurisprudence of hundreds of years of a publisher's responsibility for what they publish. And the anonymous and rule-free world in which social media operates could end simply and quickly, but of course Parliament would have to be in session, to say in Canada.
And why isn't Parliament in session, Elizabeth May? Maybe it's because Justin Trudeau refuses to hand over documents that incriminate the Liberals? They don't want to hand over documents to the police. This is so rich, coming from the Trudeau supporter here, the Green Party.
We don't recognize something called a platform. You've invented this term for yourselves, so that you can, as profiteering transnational corporations, interfere in our lives and harvest our lives to make money for yourselves, threatening our democracy, threatening our journalism. So you're publishers, and we're not.
Journalism? Are you talking about the $1.3 billion of Canadian taxpayer dollars that goes to the CBC to then push propaganda back onto us, not telling us the truth?
We're not going to censor what you publish, but if someone wants to sue you, you'll be responsible for the words you publish, regardless of whether it comes from a foreign bot or a Canadian citizen. The publisher's responsible for what they publish, and that would really...
The hypocrisy of this is hilarious, considering we now have Justin Trudeau on the record under oath lying to Canadians. Who's right? Is Hogue wrong here?
Really clean up the sewer of social media.
Clean up the sewer of the Green Party, please. Going back to the foreign interference situation, we do have Jagmeet Kalistani Santa Singh speaking on this some more.
We know that foreign interference is something that's very serious, something that Canadians are worried about. We want to defend our democracy. We want to make sure that our democracy is free from foreign interference. We also want to make sure that everyday Canadians can live their lives without the threat or harassment of a foreign government. So we had called for this public inquiry. The Liberals had said no. We were the first political party to call for it, and now we've got the report. What Justice Hogue has highlighted, I think one of the biggest points that she made in her report was the deep concern she has regarding misinformation and disinformation, particularly on social media, and how we do not have tools right now to combat that. And it is rampant. The amount of misinformation that is available is is rampant, and that is a serious concern for democracy and for an upcoming election. And so that is a concern that was highlighted by Justice Hogue. I think that concern is also exacerbated by the leader of the Conservative Party's decisions and his actions. Pierre Poilievre has accepted the endorsement of Elon Musk, someone whose platform is also one of the worst actors in a lot of ways around misinformation and disinformation. Coupled with the fact that Pierre Poilievre also wants to defund a public broadcaster, which is a source of real information, journalistic integrity, really highlights a danger.
This guy's unbelievable. The propaganda we get pushed. He's not going to highlight that Justin Trudeau said there's traitors in the Conservative government, but then Commissioner Hogue comes out and says, no, there's nothing going on in there.
Dangerous set of priorities given Justice Hogue's findings of misinformation and the need for fact checks and fact confirmation. What other things that Justice Hogue highlighted, and I want to point out, is he said that all leaders, all political leaders, should get security clearance and receive information that is pertinent to their parties or to democracy in general. And that highlights the real concerns that Canadians have raised about Pierre Poilievre.
This is all just a smear video here, talking about he didn't get his security clearance, all this stuff.
Only leader of a political party has not received security clearance. And so,
yeah, and you got security clearance. You told us that there's very alarming traitors in the government. We have to watch out. And then Justice Hogue comes out and says, no, there's not. You can't make this stuff up. This government is just the worst one in history.
So that was highlighted. And I think finally, Justice Hogue did raise concerns about sitting parliamentarians and questionable or concerning behavior. And I'll highlight, she said, of questionable ethics. And that is something in the context of foreign interference that I'm concerned by.
Questionable ethics, yet you guys were ringing the bell like there's crazy traitors in the government. You and Justin Trudeau. What's really going on in our government?
Ultimately, what we want to see is now the recommendations that Justice Hogue has made be implemented. I've instructed my party, my national director and team, to follow all of the recommendations as it relates to political parties so that we're doing our part. I encourage other political leaders to do the same.
Just unbelievable what we have going on in this corrupt, broken NDP Liberal government we have today. Trudeau caught lying under oath. Jagmeet Singh lying at a press conference. Or are they all lying and they're trying to cover up a bunch of foreign interference and traitors in the government? Buckle up, this rough ride is not over.